The loss of the match that this boy experienced, or many of us competitors have experienced, right? We've lost tons and tons of matches, but that loss does not equal failure. It equals opportunity, right? It equals opportunity to learn something, learn about what is needed to get a medal, or learn something about our preparation. Like, what do we need to tweak in training so that if my goal is to obtain a gold medal, then I need to tweak my training or tweak my goals or whatever it needs. But it's like being able to reflect back at that if you lost a match, right? But losing does not equal failure.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of Off the Mat. My name is Josh Dumoulin, and this is
Nicole Stratichuk.
And today we are talking... Well, actually, let's just start with a little bit of a story. We actually just finished the Nationals, right? We just got back from National Championships in Vernon. The tournament was awesome. The host did a great job. The event was a lot of fun. We took, 26 competitors?
27, yeah, I thought 27.
27 competitors. And, it was awesome. It's always great. I always love, just going to the tournaments, watching everybody, perform. I like watching the kids before the event, after the event, watching them run through the stands, now that Ryder, being about 9 years old, having him, go to the events and just, afterwards he's just hanging around. He's having fun. He's going and making friends with either people in his division or other kids hanging around there, and just watching him run around that place, have a great time. And now Rocky, being a little bit old enough too, where he just hangs around with Ryder and they go around and, they kind of get into some trouble a little bit, and, in a good way.
Not bad trouble, but yeah, for 2 whole days, Ryder and Rocky just spent, outside of the competition time that they had on the mat. But once they were done for 2 days, they just ran around the venue. And that's kind of the coolest part about competition is, yeah, there's this element of the actual competition, but it's everything else and just being surrounded by so many like-minded people all at once. And yeah, they get to make some friends. And I barely saw them those 2 days, to be quite honest, because they're just running around having so much fun. Yeah,
every time we checked in on them, they were, oh, no, I'm good. We're good. We're over here. We're playing this. We're playing tag here. We're running here. We're going there. Anyway, it's just so much fun because I remember being a kid myself, going to tournaments and just experiencing that part. And the competitions were so much more than just, the actual ring time. That's of course the focal point and what we want to have happen and everything, but there is everything else around it. And even the friends that, our kids are making, some of them aren't even students here at our school. They're kids that live in other cities, train with other instructors in other places. And, they would never meet each other if it wasn't for something like this. And now here they are creating these bonds and friendships and laughs. And
this tournament for me was a little bit different than normal. So I didn't spend a lot of time on the competition floor this time. And, but I got to meet some other kids that, were running around and they had competed. And I got to meet some of these young kids and how excited they were to be helping out with the tournament or meeting other kids. And yeah, so I just got to see the other side to the competition this weekend. Like I was right in there with the other kids that were, observing or making friends or running around with my boys. So yeah, a lot of awesome kids at this tournament for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was really good. I enjoy that part there, but I also really enjoy when we get back home, right? Like we get back home and we get to class and this, all of the students come back to class and they're all excited. Some of the kids know, that they went to a tournament. They didn't go, but they know that so-and-so went to a tournament. So they're asking how they did. And, there's all that support, at the event from parents and coaches, but then also just their classmates in the dojang, and they're able to, talk about it. And I like to do this, whenever we get back, I always bring up, whoever's in class that was at the event, I bring them up and we ask about the tournament, and I give the opportunity for them to sort of share things that they learned, the results, like how they did at the tournament, give them a chance, to sort of be a little bit of a celebrity up there and tell the class, this is what I learned, this is what happened, this is what, I did, this is my favorite part of the tournament. Whatever they want to kind of share about the event, they have the chance to. And so as I'm going through on Monday, it was right away, it was Monday night. I got back literally right in time for classes, drove straight here, got to classes, started teaching, and 3 or 4 in this one particular class, 3 or 4 of the students that were at the tournament were in that class as well. So I'm going around and I start with one of the students, and she's like, I got a silver, I go to the next one and I got a gold, and I go to the next student, and they're giving their results and they're talking about like what they learned, and I'm sort of saying like, I got a chance to see their match, and I was telling the class, this is what happened. They had to fight this many times. It was crazy. They went overtime. This one got to fight one of the black belts, and they're a black stripe, and they got so I'm getting to kind of pump them up, and they're talking all about it. Anyway, I get through the 3, and then I get to the last one, and I, say to this young man, I go, hey, how did you do? And right away, he's just like, terrible. It was just like, okay, in my head, this is all happening very quick. I get all the way through 3 students. They've all talked about how great, and I get to this one here, and it's just terrible. So instinctually, though, this comes from experience as an instructor. It was like, somebody else might have been like, terrible. Oh man, that's too bad you didn't get anything.
Better luck next time.
But I know that he wasn't terrible. So I needed to dig a little bit deeper. Well, what was terrible? Well, I didn't get anything. Okay. So that's when we started to peel open, kind of the layers here to what his experience was. And so the problem was he was associating his experience at the tournament, his performance at the tournament, with the medal standings. And that's not always the case. And that's something that, people, especially coaches and parents, we need to make sure that we communicate that correctly with people, with competitors of all ages too, not just the kids. I'm using this as a reference because this happened in one of our, 8 to 12-year-old classes or something like that. Yeah. So it's relevant for this one here, but it's kind of for everybody. And we tend to associate the medal standing that you got with the actual performance you did. And though it's a easy gauge, it's something that you can look at visibly and say, oh, I got gold. I did really, really well. I got a silver. Well, I did okay. I got bronze. Yeah, it was all right. You can look at that. But the problem is with competition, that's not always the case. Like that's not always the case. Your performance isn't necessarily tied to that medal.
That's right. There's been lots of times, just from my own experience being in tournaments, I don't even know how many tournaments I've competed at, but there's been times where I've gone to the competition, I felt really good about my preparation, I felt really good about my performance, and I got the gold medal, right? So everything kind of lined up, and it's easy to make that association. But there's also been times where I felt really good about my preparation, I felt really good about my performance, and no medal.
Right.
So what happens in that, So, looking at this young boy that was in the class last night, he prepared. We know he did, right? He was in the competition prep class. It would be another conversation to know what he felt about his preparation, right? But did he put the effort forth to ensure he had the best performance he could that day? And then what was his performance on that day? Like, did you have a good day? Did you have an off day? Like, what happened? And the outcome, the medal, he didn't have a medal. So I've experienced this same thing. But it's a different type of mindset to understand that just because I didn't get the gold or a medal at the tournament, that doesn't mean my whole performance was terrible. Doesn't mean that I'm terrible. And if I thought that way, I would have never continued on with competition. right? Like if I tied me getting a medal to what I thought about myself, like, or my motivation would have dwindled unless I thought about it in the right way. So yeah, it's just making sure that we are not tying the outcome of our performance, like the byproduct is the medals, right? And regardless of the medals, that doesn't mean like you're good or bad or ugly, right? Like, so.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's sometimes hard to really step back on that though and really think, you know, you go there wanting the gold medal, right? Like you go there wanting to place, you go there wanting to get up on that podium and have somebody put that medal around your neck. Of course, that's what you're going to go and do. And so it is a hard, you know, it's a hard lesson to learn, but it is a lesson, you know, there. And that's what, you know, we try to, you know, communicate is that there's lessons.
That's right. And the loss of the match that this boy experienced, or many of us competitors have experienced, right? We've lost tons and tons of matches, but that loss does not equal failure. It equals opportunity, right? It equals opportunity to learn something, learn about what is needed to get a medal, or learn something about our preparation. Like what do we need to tweak in training so that if my goal is to obtain a gold medal, then I need to tweak my training or tweak my goals or whatever it needs. But it's like being able to reflect back at that if you lost a match, right? But losing does not equal failure. So,
but yeah, and that's just it. So it was more just so like the way he described how he did, because that's what I asked. How did you do? And his description was terrible.
Yeah.
Well, so then that's when, again, going back to what I was talking about, was like, you know, an inexperienced coach would have been just like, oh, well, what did you get? Oh, you didn't get anything. Yeah, well, you know, better luck next time. But I was able to just, you know, having gone through it, myself, through competition, coaching, seeing people go through it, watching it as a father, watching it as a coach and instructor and a competitor myself, I was able to kind of say, okay, well, what was terrible? Well, I didn't get anything. Okay, but that doesn't mean that you did terrible. Did you try your best that day? Yeah, I did. I really did try really hard.
Right.
Okay. Did you have fun while you were there? Yeah, I had a blast. It was a lot of fun. Okay, so you had fun. You're telling me you tried your best. Well, that doesn't mean you did terrible. You didn't do terrible. You just didn't place that day. Like you know,
right.
Your competitors were just better that day.
Right. And so that's where the reflection piece is, because if his goal is to get a gold medal, there is a way to get there.
Absolutely.
And so we can go back and readjust and make those new goals and look at what we need to do and stuff. The other thing that could have come out of that conversation, though, is when you asked, you know, how did it go? How did you feel? Did you try your best? Did you have fun? If he said no, then that's a separate issue, right? Is okay, like what did happen? Oh, I had a tummy ache, right? Like, or wasn't feeling well, or the nerves got the best of me, right? But whatever he said, there was something to work on. There was a goal to be made. There was something to reflect on and figure out. Everything is figure outable. I think I've said that a lot this last week. I don't know why, it's just come up a lot, but everything is figure outable, right? So if there was an issue, he had a tummy ache or the nerves or whatever, it was too much, overwhelming, whatever. Okay, then that's what we work on, right? Like there's always going to be a goal or an opportunity or a new challenge coming out of that situation. So yeah.
Right.
I was thinking about this because we've been talking about it since it happened last night. And like for me, I look back at when I was competing as a teenager and, you know, I competed as an adult and recently too, but I am totally driven to get a gold medal. Like that's what I want. And I don't know, there's something I think just like instinctively in me that I want that gold medal. And I think baseline that, like we said, that's why everyone enters the tournament, right? The thing about having the gold medal as your goal is you have to be prepared to lose. You have to know how that's going to go and how to process that, right? Because when you go, say this young boy, he goes to the tournament, he wants to get the gold medal, he does his best, he performs his best, and it's a loss, right? He has to be able to process that disappointment so that he can continue on to that gold medal goal, right? And because that was me for sure, but I also was prepared that when I was disappointed, so similar to him, I was very confident in my preparation. I was pleased with my performance. I knew that I had done my best, and it was still not a win. That's when I really had to have the right mindset that I was accepting the loss and processing that disappointment and turning it into a new challenge, a new goal for me to work towards so that I could get a gold medal. Maybe the next tournament, maybe the one after, but there was going to be a gold medal for me because I was just relentless in pursuing that goal.
That's right. And that's part of the adversity that, martial arts teaches us, is that whether it's competition, we're just training on life is full of that. There is wins and losses, and you have to. And I know some people don't want to accept it, but sorry, you're not going to get everything that you want. You're not going to, get it all. You're going to lose some stuff. You're going to work hard on something and not get the results that you want. And you have to be able to handle those emotions and understand, was it that I was bad, or that my performance was bad, or was it what other factors can there be? Like you were bringing up, did you have a tummy? There's so many things. A lot of times, more often than not in the type of competition that we do anyway, it's not like a local, school basketball teams, right? Like you're playing how many games throughout the season, and you're playing how many at your home court. That's a big advantage. More often than not, we're competing outside of our city.
That's right.
There is factors going into this whole thing that we can't even begin to imagine. How was the road trip? How was your flight?
Right.
How was the hotel? How was the food? The rest, all of it.
But
all of it plays a big one.
That another example that's going to come out of that basketball example is when you play basketball or hockey or soccer, kind of a team sport that, the ball or the puck goes into a net, is very clear, right? The ball goes into the net, it's a point or 2 points or 3 points. I don't know. It's been a while since I played basketball, and I don't know how hockey or soccer works. But anyway, the ball or the puck goes into the net. That is very clear. That team scores a point, right?
Sure.
Whereas in Taekwondo, martial arts, dance, or gymnastics, things that are more like, if we look at the patterns competition, it is standardized and there are rules around the patterns and things like that. But there is this element of subjective, right? Like it has happening really fast, and the refs and the judges have to score this,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah,
and
that's a big
so
one.
There's so much outside factors that are not under your control. Now, in that case, there is some things under control, because if the refs are marking you because your stance is wrong or your technique is wrong, I mean, those are things that you can change. But sometimes there is an element of subjectivity which you have no control over.
And that's just it. So let's use sparring, for example. In Taekwondo, there's 4 corner judges.
Correct.
Okay. 4 corner judges, and we are trained as referees when we take courses. And again, there's standardization that we have to follow as referees and umpires. Just so everybody knows.
That's not what I'm trying to say.
There's 4 corner judges. What if, just for example, you were standing in one position where only one corner judge could see a point that they were throwing and not any that you are throwing, and none of the other, what if, right? There's those sorts of things, because as the judges, we are trained in sparring to only mark what we actually see, not what we assume. A kick to the head, I have to see the foot touch.
Yes.
It is not, that hit the side, I think.
That's what I was trying to say, with the patterns. There's patterns. There's 5 refs sitting across, umpires sitting across at the front of the ring, right?
Yep.
Well, one judge on the side is going to have a different angle than the one in the center. So like there's where there's discrepancy between the judges, you know, scoring. So that comes into account. Like, you know, just happens that judge on the side saw that this stance was incorrect and this one didn't see it because it's correct from their angle. That's the hard thing about our sport or other sports like that.
Yeah.
Right?
And in no way should this be used. Like, this is the thing. And anybody who comes and tells me, you know, right away the first time they lose, if anybody comes and tells me, oh, it's the judging, I will immediately dismiss you. You are right. I won't even. Now, can it happen? Yes. Honestly, though, like the amount of times where it's like, oh, it was just really, really poor judging, I say is fewer than most. But it's not something that you should be like, well, it was poor. No. Like I said, there's so many things. The big thing that, you know, should be taken away is just that, you know, your performance when you're describing it, not just to other people, but to yourself.
Yes.
Because we have talked about this many times about self-talk, and what you sort of say to yourself is sort of what you put out there, with the energy that you put out into the world. So when you're talking about your performance, you can't directly tie it to, well, I didn't get anything, so I did terrible. No. Like, again, it was terrible that you didn't get anything. That maybe. Yeah. But your performance was not terrible. So just be careful how you word it. I don't care if you're like joking or you're just saying it to yours. No, be careful, because those words have meaning.
Right. And your performance isn't terrible. Now,
I've gotten gold and have actually been really shitty.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I have gotten a gold and been like, I did not train for it. I got into a lucky match and happened to be against somebody who is just not at my caliber, even when I'm not training. So I can easily say I have gone to an event where I was legit terrible and still got gold.
That's
like,
right.
You know, because maybe I just did, like, I was just better that day than that person.
Yeah.
But I didn't prepare it properly and as much as maybe other ones. So anyway, it's...
Yeah, and just understanding that you know, just like your martial arts journey or your life journey, those are very unique things. And your competition journey is going to be just as unique in that sense. So when you come to a tournament, you know, this boy that you're talking to, maybe his third tournament, maybe his second or third tournament, you know, there's a lot of learning and growth that has to happen. And for someone at a blue belt level, let's say, that time in the ring at the competition is your stage for learning, right? And that's hard to accept maybe because you really want that carrot, right? Like that medal is the carrot that's dangling in front of you and you want it. But understanding that that tournament is so incredibly important for your growth in martial arts and your learning, right? So that piece is so important to understand. And that at our school, I know we spend a lot of time talking to the kids about that and making sure that they understand that everything is about learning and everything is about improvement and making yourself better and, you know, being sharp and looking sharp and feeling good about yourself and being confident in your preparation. And so that you can be confident when you step out onto the mat, that is your best performance. Now, if that's your best performance, that is the goal, especially at blue belt level, color belt level. That is the goal, is to go out there and perform at your best. And as you prepare for that, you're learning all of these things about how to do that. Then you go out there and test it. And if your best is right here and you're up against someone that their best is up here, that's just the breaks of competition, to be honest. I mean, you've done great preparing and you got yourself up to here, but now you get to see how much farther you get to go. So that's the cool thing about competition is, yeah, you did your best, but then you also went up against somebody's best who is up here and you're like, oh man, that's where I need to get to, right? Yeah. So now there's all these new goals and challenges that come out of competition if you have the right mindset to accept it that way.
And that's a really good way to look at it, because a lot of times when we go and we watch let's just say you're a color belt and you go and watch the black belts, it's not the same level as you. So right away you dismiss it as like, well, they're the black belts. That's how good they are in whatever perspective style you do. But when you get a chance to go up against somebody who's your belt level, you can assume that they've got the same sort of like timing, like we all sort of follow a similar timeline of belt progression in whatever art you train in. So when you have that opportunity to go up against somebody like you said, who's, it should be looked at, if you have the right mindset, as like, wow, this is where I can be. This is where I can get to. Like, if they can be that good, like, so can I. It's sometimes hard to like connect yourself to your this belt level to the black belts there, because you're like, well, that's so far away. Like, it's so far away. But you have that chance as a blue belt to fight against another blue belt, or perform your patterns against another blue belt, or, roll with another blue belt. You can be like, and they're like that much better. You're like, holy smokes, I've got some learning to do. I've got some growth to do. And that's where I can be. That's where I want to be. I'm going to see them at the next event, and I'm taking them down.
Mm-hmm. And so, when it comes to training at our school, especially, we are always praising the effort of these kids. We're praising the effort because that is going to, reinforce that behavior and those habits for them to train hard and continuously working on self-improvement and working at performing at their best, right? That is a lot of what we're praising, as opposed to praising the gold medals. Right. So like even when you're talking about in class, like all of those students got praised because they were brave enough to go. They were brave enough to step into the ring.
The victory is going. Like, that's the thing that people like even forget too, is just like actually going is part of the like victory.
So, and here's the thing, like you look at the 4 students that you were talking to in the class, I'm not sure exactly who they are, but so you have one that didn't get a medal. You have, maybe these guys got medals, multiple medals. Yep. We don't know, different color medals, all good. Who are you most proud of? Or maybe that's the wrong question, but are you proud of every single one of them?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the point, is like you're proud of every single one of them the same. You're not more proud because this one got gold and a little less proud because this one got silver and like not proud of this one that didn't medal. No. Like every single one we're praising because they got in the ring. They went. And where a lot of other people aren't brave enough to do that, or they haven't, got themselves in the right mindset to even do that yet. So congratulations to all those competitors that got into the ring, because, like you said, that is the victory, is stepping on the mat.
That's right. Yeah. You just think of the number of people, like, listen, there's other factors. It could be, like distance. It could be work schedules. It could be all other things. But there's many people, many people who don't step on the ring, not because finance, not because distance, not because work schedule, not because of whatever. It's like they're not willing to put themselves in that situation. And so for you to be able to do that, that is a massive victory for you alone right there. That's big. So anyway, that's the big thing here, guys. It's just, like, just remember that your performance isn't tied to those medal standings. Like you have to be able to look at your actual performance, objectively, and be like, how did I do? Not how did I place, but how did I actually do? How did I perform? Did I perform to my best, or did I not? And be honest with it. That's the thing. Like, I've been honest, like, with myself too. Like, did I actually perform to my fullest potential? Like, or did I? Right.
And so that's the worst. Because I've been there too. Like, when you get to a tournament and you've prepared well and you've trained hard for it, and then you get into the ring and you have gas left in the tank at the end of the match, you're like, that's like heartbreaking when you feel that way. And admittedly, I've probably felt that way way too many times that I care to admit, because, you kind of get into this, headspace of like, hey, I got to conserve energy and blah, blah. But yeah, it is the worst feeling, is like when you're in the competition and you don't give it everything that you've got is very, you have that regret feeling afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't want to do that.
Yep, definitely.
But experience, right? So
absolutely. Well, listen, guys, I hope that gives you guys some, stuff to think about. I hope that maybe if you're listening to this and you have a child who has just finished maybe the nationals, and this is, who we're talking about, or maybe you're just like, yeah, I've got, tournament around the corner, or maybe I myself experienced this, hopefully this helps you out. Hopefully you guys got a little bit of value out of that, and hopefully learned something and what you can do to sort of reshape your thinking around the results of an event.
Right, or help your child process what happened at the event. And I think as parents, understanding what we just talked about, that will help you talk to your child appropriately, right? And praising the right things, like praising the effort and the performance, and not tying your pride of them to the gold medal. Like, it's awesome. Congratulate them for sure. That's huge. Celebrate that they got a medal if they did, but we can also celebrate performance and just matching our conversations just to instill that growth mindset in these kids so that they can continually self-improve.
Absolutely. Well, guys, listen, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Off the Mat. We greatly appreciate your support. We get lots of people who comment or message us, or, maybe you're a student here and you see us in class. We love hearing your guys' feedback about, the episodes that you like, your favorite ones, and the things or topics that you maybe want to hear. So that being said, if you guys don't mind taking a minute to maybe leave a review or subscribe to us on YouTube, just that way we know, who's watching, who's listening. We would greatly appreciate it. And like I said, if you found value out of this, please share it with somebody that you know who might need to hear the lessons in this episode. Until we talk again, my name's Josh Jumlin. This is
Nicole Stratichek.
And you've been listening to Off the Mat.